The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Leto got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is Akeem Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to Breeze. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 241. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me, as always, is Alexis Kraft, and we are back. It's been a little bit. We were in Los Angeles. We did catch the Rams-Saints game. We're going to talk a ton about that. As for me, this was my third time in Los Angeles. And as for Alexis, this was her first time in Los Angeles. So I'm going to give the floor to Alexis. She's going to talk about her time there. Before that, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and enjoy the rest of the show. Here is Alexis.
Yeah, so it was my first time in Los Angeles. I was obviously super excited to go because of the Rams game, but also just to see LA in general because, it's a very popular city. I've heard nothing but good things, and I was just excited to get out there and experience it. We did a lot while we were there. I personally was there 4 days. I know Jake was there. Jake and our other friends were there a little bit longer, but I was there for basically a long weekend, and it was a lot of fun. We saw a lot. We hit a lot of different parts of town. I think we covered, all in all, we hit Venice Beach, Marina del Rey, Beverly Hills, Studio City, West Hollywood, Culver City. I mean, we pretty much hit everywhere. But, what really the main point of this trip, obviously, was the Rams game. And that was a lot of fun. I think, obviously, just being at the Coliseum was so incredible. It's such a historic stadium. But before that, Jake and I were invited to the Rams Empire tailgate outside the Coliseum in the parking lot. And that was just incredible. I mean, we got to meet up with so many people who listen to the show and people from Rams Twitter. I'm not going to remember everybody, so I probably shouldn't even try to name names because we literally met so many people, and it was so awesome just to get to meet you guys and meet our friends and get to talk to you and get to hang out before the game and just be surrounded by so many Rams fans. And, it's been a long time since I've been able to go to a Rams tailgate. Ever since the Rams left St. Louis, I haven't been able to go to a true Rams tailgate. So that was a lot of fun to get to experience. And Rams Empire put on a first class tailgate. I mean, they had the whole works. They had the food. They had DJ. They had drinks. It was so much fun. Definitely next time I'm in LA, I'm going to make sure to go to the Rams Empire tailgate. But then we went from there to the game. And obviously, we're going to kind of talk about the game more in depth here soon. But obviously, it was a good game. It was fun to watch. It was a great experience. The weather was not as bad as we thought it was going to be. I think we kind of thought going in there because we were sitting on the visitor side, which is kind of the side that doesn't have any shade, that was going to be blazing hot. But it really was not that bad. We were really lucky that the day was kind of super overcast for the most part. So that was good. We got to see our Rams win. We were excited about that. Just being at the game was so fun. And Jake, I'll let you chime in here because I could ramble on about it forever. But I mean, it was just really, really an overall really good day at the Rams game.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. I'm so glad that you did end up making the trip because I know it wasn't exactly the most easiest thing financially. Anytime you fly out to LA, it's always going to be kind of a gamble there, because I mean, it's a lot of money to do a trip like this. So I appreciate you coming. I'm so glad you did and had some fun. And I appreciate you guys for those of you that listened and really enjoy the podcast, but also, like Alexis said, we're really, really nice and friendly at the tailgate. We had a lot of fun. I'm not going to name every name, but, for the most part, like I just gotta say, Tommy of, Rams Uncensored, Mark of Rams Uncensored, Brian Rams Uncensored, Keon Monroe. I again, there's so many people, Ram Mafia. There's just so many people. Drew, it's like you could go down the line. So anybody that I forgot, I do apologize. I didn't forget you. It's just also we have to, do this podcast. But appreciate you guys so much. As far as the game, sorry,
I
what were you saying?
have two shout outs really quick that I want to. A few people I want to shout out, people that really helped make that tailgate awesome. You said Tommy was awesome, making that tailgate awesome. Pink also helped a lot at that tailgate. I think that she's the one that there was a really fun like pinata. Remember the pinata? At the tailgate, It was a pacifier with the Saints logo on it, which was hilarious and so much fun. And then also Keon, our guy. He's awesome. Man. We saw him there. And then also I want to give a big shout out to our friend Kiefer, because Kiefer was kind enough to give us his tickets because he was not able to make the game. And that was really helped us out because we had really incredible seats. I mean, we sat at one of the 20-yard lines, about 25 rows up maybe. I mean, it was absolutely best seats in the house, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. It was really cool. I haven't sat that close I don't think I've ever sat that close at an NFL game. So it was a really great experience. And, obviously, we really enjoyed it. But that's it for our game day experience. Now we're going to talk about this game because there is a lot of backlash about missed calls. And, anytime the Rams play the Saints, I think that's just always going to be the case. First and foremost, I just want to bring up the obvious elephant in the room here, and that's the Drew Brees, the Drew Brees injury. I think really quickly, I do want to touch on this because I think it's extremely important for people to realize, look, Drew Brees got hurt. The Rams didn't go against the Saints at their best, but the way the Rams came out and how flat the Saints offense looked, how flat they looked in general, I don't think it would have mattered. I know we could talk about what ifs all we want, but at the end of the day, the Rams took care of business, and they took care of business on the defensive side of the ball. And shout out to Wade Phillips to getting this defensive unit. I think it might be top 3 in the league. I think by the end of the year, this will be the best unit in the league. I think people just aren't. They're not realizing, like the national media, they're not realizing how good this Rams defense has been, forcing turnovers and sacks and pressure and, fumbles. I mean, it came last week at the expense of, the linebacker group. So Corey Littleton was huge as far as forcing turnovers. This week, it was kind of, a mixture, right? You had the huge sack off the edge by Clay Matthews. He drilled Teddy Bridgewater. Ball came out, and they weren't able to scoop it up. But, you had a really hard hit by, I believe it was John Johnson. Early on in the game, that was really the tone setter, I would say, Alexis. I mean, like anytime you start a game off like that, you have Drew Brees kind of going down the field. The Saints are trying to score early on, and you deferred, right? You're not going to get the ball until the second half. Well, I mean, you'll get the ball, but you get the ball in the second half. Anytime you do that, and then you kind of come out and, the offense kind of goes down the field, it sets you up for, an interesting game. But the Rams getting that turnover was huge. So I want to ask you, what was the biggest... What is your biggest takeaway of this game? Just looking at the Rams-Saints game, what is your biggest takeaway as the Rams enter week 3?
My biggest takeaway is that for a team who last year was so electric on offense. They now, I think, are being electric on the other side of the ball. I think going into this year, I think the defense was, some people were worried about it because we did lose a lot of like key guys. I mean, we lost Sue, we lost Mark Barron, we lost Marcus Joyner. And then, you know, I think it surprisingly has turned out that our defense is almost more solid than our offense. I mean, I have been pretty vocal about the start that our offense has gotten off to. I'm not panicking, I'm not worried, but I'm also not really happy. I'll let you touch more on that. But I think what surprised me the most about this game is I was so impressed by our defensive play and so unimpressed by our offensive play, particularly some plays made by our quarterback. And before I get into that, I mean, is there anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think, it's been a tale of two sides of the football. And, when you look at the defense has improved from last year. The offense is still, kind of trying to find their way. And I'll be honest with you, because I've been super supportive of Jared Goff on the show. I've been super supportive on Twitter. I've been super supportive everywhere of Jared Goff. But I'll tell you this right now, he needs to step up. He really needs to improve, because when you look at the way he played, he's the king of it. He's the king of finishing with a solid stat line when he didn't play as well as his stats look. So you look and you're like, oh, 283 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. I saw a different game. He missed a ton of throws. 19 of 28, like he easily could have been 24 of 28. He missed some easy throws. I wasn't impressed by the Saints secondary, but I don't think it was really much about the Saints secondary as it was about the Rams pass catchers. I think when you look at Cooper Kupp, he was constantly open. Robert Woods constantly open. Brandon Cooks constantly open. Really, even like Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett, guys were constantly open. So I think the Rams really could have blown out the Saints, and 27-9 is still a blowout. But, this whole idea where Saints fans and the national media are complaining because that call changed the course of the game. Let's be real here. The Rams settled for 2 field goals. If they score there, that would have been a completely different ball game. And the thing is, I think as the season progresses, I think Jared Goff is going to score in those situations. And I think Sean McVay is going to get better at, play calling in the red zone. I think, again, it's very early and they're still rusty from not having anything in preseason. And that includes McVay, who turned his play calling over to Shane Waldron.
I can't hear anything you're saying if you're saying anything.
Oh, I was giving you the nod.
What was the last thing you said?
Well, I was saying that basically they're rusty, and even Sean McVay is at play calling because he gave the reins over to Shane Waldron, who called plays in preseason.
Okay, so I'll just give it a little bit, and I'll go from there.
All right, cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like you said, I think it's probably just rust. I fully expect that when the Rams go to Cleveland this Sunday night to play there, play the Browns, I think that, they'll probably have worked on all those offensive issues, or at least I hope that they have, because I think that they can get right back into the swing of things. They just got to be a little bit more focused, pay more attention to detail, kind of get all that extra rust off. But overall, I would say the team looked good. I think obviously there's always room for improvement, and we touched on that. I thought that they did well. And like you mentioned, they didn't have to face Drew Brees, and a lot of people kind of on social media are kind of, Saints fans are using that as a reason as to why the Rams won. I'm not going to argue that it would have been harder to play against Drew Brees. Yes, I think it obviously would have added another element. Drew Brees is elite. He's phenomenal, one of the best, but I still think the Rams would have won this game because they just were the better team, in my opinion, just overall, every play. But as far as that recap of the Rams-Saints game goes. That's all I have to say. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think the defense definitely, tip your hat off to them. They had 7 pass breakups on Teddy Bridgewater, and I think it kind of goes to show you, 7 on the Rams side. The Saints had 0 pass breakups on their side. Kind of goes to show you Jared Goff's incompletions were nowhere near the receiver, or he just he didn't hit his target. I mean, they weren't good plays that were broken up. It was that he had a hard time delivering the ball with accuracy. And I just think, obviously, you get that win. You win 27-9. It's not a big deal. And right now the Saints are 1-1, and you have a tiebreaker over them, and they're not going to have Breeze for the next 6 games. And again, not a big deal, but it is a big deal when you go to play, say, the Packers, and you go up against Mike Pettine's defense. That will take those to the house, right? When you go up against Dallas's defense, coordinated by Rod Marinelli, who is a defensive mind of his own, and Chris Richard, I believe. So, I just think he's going to need to fix his issue. And I think, right around week 4 last year is when he did on primetime, and he played one of the best games that I've seen. I know I told you that at the game against the Vikings. I'm wondering if this Sunday that's going to be the case. I'm definitely wondering that. But, again, we could talk about the defense and how well they played against Teddy Bridgewater, but I think what's really not being said here is how well they contained Alvin Kamara. This is one of the best running backs in football. I mean, easily. And he literally had less than 70 total yards on total yards, like not just on the ground, like passing. And he came to LA in 2017 and gave the Rams fits. He's always given the Rams fits. He's one of the best players in the, So, I mean, the fact that they held him to less than 70 yards after giving up over 200 to Christian McCaffrey, it shows that they really sold out to stop that run. And I'll tell you, the 4th down play, it was 4th and 1, and they stuffed him at the line of scrimmage. That was really the game right there. Once they did that, the whole momentum shift just went flying to the Rams side and went in favor of the Rams. So, I mean, that was huge. Cooper Kupp is kind of a huge, I think he's a huge talking point in this game as well. We saw that incredible play by him. I would say this. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who came from the same exact draft. You have Chris Godwin. I feel like all 3 of those guys are kind of ascending with Cooper Kupp, ascending into that next tier of receivers. And I'll be honest with you, I think, Cooper Kupp is going to have his targets. I think that's Jared's favorite target. To me, I think Cooper Kupp could end up being a top 10 receiver this year. And I think he has a shot at being the best receiver on the Rams. While I believe it's Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, and then Cooper Kupp in that order, I think Cooper Kupp is going to end up having a better season than the other 2 because of the targets and how much Jared relies on him.
Yeah, Jared definitely, it's pretty obvious that Cooper is his kind of go-to target. That was something actually that we talked about at the game that I felt that a few times hurt him. Actually, I felt there was times that other receivers were open and he still tried to force it to Cooper. But I do think that I agree with you that Cooper has the potential to be the most productive wide receiver on this team by the end of the season, which is quite phenomenal considering what happened to him last year with that torn ACL. So I'm really excited because I really like Cooper and I really hope that he does well. So that is something to definitely look out for. And you mentioned Alvin Kamara. He is someone who I had my eye on that game as well because I was nervous about him, but also because I was playing against him in fantasy that week. So I was really happy that the Rams helped me out and held him to a short amount of yards. So that was good.
Yeah, and really quickly, before we dive into the Rams-Browns game and just preview that a little bit, some takeaways from week 2. The 49ers and Seahawks are both 2-0. And, I think the 49ers set themselves up well to be 3-0 this weekend. I think the Seattle Seahawks could end up 3-0, and I think the Rams could be 3-0. So it almost looks, and with the Cardinals, the way, they tied their first game on the road with a rookie quarterback. They came back and tied it up in a game they really had no business being in. And then week 2, they're going toe-to-toe with Lamar Jackson and one of the best AFC teams in football, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. So, I think this NFC West has kind of gone through their cycle. And, I mean, we're only, going into week 3, but, I mean, I don't know about you. Doesn't it appear that, the NFC West is back as the best division in football?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say they're the best division, but I think that they're certainly more competitive than they have been in the last decade, maybe longer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, but, I think that they're getting there, and it kind of makes those Rams divisional games a little more of a test. But now we move on to the Rams-Browns, and, this is a tale of a team that was just in the Super Bowl and another team that was getting Super Bowl aspirations to start the year, and, really just sending signals to everybody to, hold on to those predictions, right? Like, let's slam the brakes a little bit. Like, let's not go too crazy. Even I got a little caught up on the Browns, but then towards the end of preseason, I just kind of, I was doing my my research, right before the season. I do it every year before I make predictions and, rank different teams of where they'll be in the division rankings. And I just kept looking at the Browns, and I'm like, you know what? I think they're better than the Steelers. I think they're better than the Bengals, but I think the Ravens would beat them by 2 touchdowns if they played. Like, I think Odell Beckham Jr. adds another element to their offense. He's the best receiver in football, in my opinion. But I just don't know, if it's all going to come together, the way, again, with a rookie head coach and everything. So I kind of was souring on them a little bit, and I was lower than that on them than the consensus. And I'll say this, week 1, I looked pretty good there because they got blown out by Tennessee in a game no one expected. And then week 2, they go up against the Jets, who don't have Sam Darnold. That game would have been a lot different with Sam Darnold. And, obviously, they start Trevor Siemian. Siemian leaves the game, and he's now out for the year. So then Luke Falk comes in, and I'm a huge Luke Falk fan going back to Washington State. But I'll tell you this right now. It's incredibly difficult to come into a game that you were not expected to play in, right? It's even more difficult to come right into a game when you were just recently signed to the practice squad of that team and then elevated from the practice squad. So there's no way Luke Falk, had really a grasp of the play calling. And I think that was always a doomed to fail type of scenario. And in this case, I felt like the Browns were the easiest bet. If you were to go and gamble, you would pick the Browns to win this game. However, I watched this game and I never at one point felt like the Browns were actually winning the game. I felt like they were just, they were ahead of obviously the Jets, but I didn't feel like they took over. And, part of the reason is I think the Browns as an offense, they go way too much relying on the deep play, deep ball. Baker Mayfield is not going to, settle for the short throw. He always wants to go for the big play. And I noticed that. So I think really this bodes well for the Rams because, as you know, from watching the Super Bowl, they have done things in the past where they'll be like, hey, we'll let Julian Edelman go off if he wants to catch passes underneath all day. We're just not going to allow the big play. With that being said, I think that's kind of how they're going to try and play Odell Beckham Jr. They're going to try in bracket coverage Odell and force everything underneath to Jarvis Landry. I expect Jarvis Landry to have a big game as far as statistical perspective, but I don't think the Browns really have enough firepower, especially with the news of David Njoku likely being out for this game. But what are your thoughts? Because I'm looking at this game, and originally, as you know, when I picked the Rams schedule, I had them going 15-1, and this was my loss. And now I have the Rams winning because I don't think the Browns are as good as even I thought initially, and I was still lower on them than the consensus.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I bought into the Browns hype as well. Before preseason started, I was convinced that the Browns were a playoff team and that they were going to light it up on offense. But I did say, and I believe it was on this podcast, it might have been a different podcast that I was a guest on, but I worried about Baker Mayfield. I am a big Baker fan, don't get me wrong. I think he's awesome. I think he plays with passion. I like it. But am concerned a little bit and was concerned a little bit about him and Odell Beckham being on the same team, and here's why. I've said that in the past, historically, it's very rare that you get a fiery, passionate quarterback that pairs well with a fiery, passionate wide receiver. That's what I was worried about. That's something I'm still worried about as well. Now, Baker Mayfield also seems to be having another issue. He seems to just kind of be all over the place this season. And again, maybe like we were saying with Jared Goff, it's rust. Maybe he just the first 2 games has been out of it. I personally think that, from what I've heard and seen and other people's opinions, he's kind of fallen into that commercial trap. He's in every single commercial, and now when you turn on the TV, kind of doing everything. Maybe his focus is not on football. That's not really for me to judge. I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but it does seem that he is not himself this season. As I have watched the Browns this season, I now too think the Rams will beat the Browns on Sunday night. Before the season, I thought that this was going to be a game that they lost. Now, I do think that if the Browns have been playing the way that they're playing, I think that the Rams should be able to win. I think you're right. I think the Rams are probably going to focus just on containing Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham, like you said, I agree with you. I think that he is the best receiver in football when he's completely healthy. I think that even if the Rams double him, I'm sure he'll still be able to pull something off. He's Odell. He does it all the time. But I think that you can minimize the damage that he does by either doubling him or playing different schemes, whatever. I think that he is who they should focus on. And you're right, they are without David Njoku, who is a very good tight end, and he's probably not playing. I forget if you said that they confirmed he's not playing Sunday, but I heard he was basically pretty much not going to be playing Sunday. So that definitely hurts the Browns offense because they do rely on him a lot. I mean, he's a tight end, but he's also one of their best receivers. And then also the Rams have shown us that they have been pretty good with the run this season. And Nick Chubb is the Browns running back. So that's also something to look out for. But I think the Rams will do a pretty good job containing him.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alexis. I think they're definitely going to be able to contain Nick Chubb. I haven't been super impressed with him, as of late. He had a really good rookie year, but, this year he's kind of off to a slower start. As far as that goes, I think the X factor here is Dearness Johnson. Somebody, if you remember his name, I believe he played for the Memphis Express, was the supposed starting back for them. And if he didn't play for the Memphis Express, I'm just completely blowing it. But he was in the AAF, and he is technically a rookie this year. And I'm actually, a little worried, being, if you're a Rams fan, I think you should be a little worried because his ability to catch passes out of the backfield and just the way they were using him, he's actually kind of split carries with Nick Chubb. So he's going to be an interesting one to watch for. He had his way with the Jets. And I think really just looking at the Browns, I mean, you have Njoku out. Rashard Higgins is likely questionable. Somebody I'm really high on out of Colorado State. But again, questionable. Didn't play against the Jets. So now they're down to Taywan Taylor, who I like a lot out of Western Kentucky. But the thing about Taywan Taylor is that he started with the Titans, was traded as kind of a late trade. Like he initially made the Titans 53-man roster and was traded as a late trade to the Browns. So, you wonder how far behind he is with the playbook. And technically he'd be the next guy in line because you look at Antonio Callaway, he's serving a suspension right now. Damian Ratley got involved in the action at Texas A&M. But Ratley is somebody I don't really know if he's ready, to take a significant role yet. I think he's somebody that you could develop down the line. So really, you're looking at Demetrius Harris and Pharaoh Brown at the tight end position. They're definitely weaker without Rashard Higgins and, of course, David Njoku. So I think right off the bat, the Rams kind of are looking good there. But then when you look at the offensive line, Greg Robinson's left tackle, that, enough said there. So you put, Dante Fowler on him, and that's going to be a nightmare matchup, kind of similar to Myles Garrett against, what's his face, the guy that played, for the Jets, their left tackle. So Beachum. So, I think all in all, I think the Rams are looking good. The Browns offense is definitely going to have to get stuff going. And I do think that those injuries are a concern. I think Njoku changes the way you can defend this offense, whereas I think they become a little more one-dimensional, where you have to either, run it with Chubb, or you have to throw it to Odell or Jarvis. And, again, it makes things one-dimensional. Now on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams, I think it's going to be the Rams are going to be licking their chops, on the defensive line. You saw the way the Jets were getting after it, and I was not overly impressed with the offensive line, again, with Greg Robinson being there. They have, talent there, but for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not totally sold on their offensive line. I think the Rams are really going to come out strong and be able to, definitely make an impact for sure.
So, final prediction, at least mine, for this Rams-Browns game is going to be the Rams win 28-21. And the biggest star of the game for the Rams, I'm just going to say it's going to be Aaron Donald. This is going to be his week. He's always making his presence felt, but this week I think he's finally going to get some sacks. I think he's going to just be absolutely disruptive on that Browns offensive line. So I think he's going to be the star of the game. And then I guess if you want to say a star for the game for the Browns, I'm going to say that I think Jarvis Landry is going to have a good week, simply because the Rams are going to do a pretty good job of doubling Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. I'm going to go with, well, first off, I'm going to go with 34-17. I think the Rams are going to be an easy bet to go over 30 the majority of the games this year, especially as this offense continues to get better. I mean, are you kidding me? The way the offense played last game to have 27 points, and then the game before it have 30, it's pretty crazy that they're already doing that, and they're nowhere near where they're going to be. So I do think this is kind of a Jared Goff coming out party type of thing. I'm expecting a big game out of Goff. I'm expecting 4 touchdown passes, and I think he's going to be the player of the game for the Rams. I do think they'll get plenty of pressure on Baker and force him into some turnovers. On the Browns side of the ball, player of the game in my mind is probably going to be somebody on the offensive side, because I think the Rams offensive line is going to show up big time. Myles Garrett isn't going to have the game that everyone is going to predict him to have, despite the fact he has been unbelievable. I'm going to go with Dearness Johnson, who ends up being the player of the game for the Browns. I think he is going to kind of pick apart the Rams a little bit. Pass catching out of the backfield. I think they're going to sell out so much so to stop Odell and Jarvis Landry that Dearness Johnson feasts on the Rams, and not in a way that can really win a game, but kind of like that garbage time type of stuff. So I do think Dearness Johnson will end up having the best game, on the Browns. And again, 34-17 Rams. But I think that's about it. Unless, do you have anything else to say, Alexis, before we dive right into week 3?
Nope, just I'm excited for the game. It's prime time. It's Sunday night. It's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I know we were originally going to go, but we went to the Rams Saints, so glad we did that. And now we can enjoy the game at home, and hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you guys soon.